Hello everyone, and welcome back to another session of Dark Souls 2 PvP and another weapon showcase. This time I am using the Scythe of Want, which you get from using Nishandra's Soul with the Weaponsmith Ornifex. Now, this weapon is without a doubt the best Reaper class weapon, and there are a few reasons for that, which I'll get into a little bit later on. But getting started, the Scythe of Want requires 14 Strength, 20 Dexterity, 18 Intelligence, and 18 Faith. It has a D scaling in Strength, a B scaling in Dexterity, and a C in Dark. The physical base damage of this weapon is 260, and the Dark base damage is 200. The attack rating with this weapon, for me, is 639. The counter strength is 110, the poise damage is 15 per hit, and the weight is 12 units. Now, this weapon, oh man, this weapon, it is fantastic. It's a very powerful weapon, the most powerful scythe, and it is just a really, really fun weapon to use. I was having a little trouble getting used to it at first because of its two-handed R2, but it was very easy to warm up to once I realized the ability of it to do its combo ability is what I'm getting at. Its combo ability is truly fantastic because of that two-handed R2, and it's actually kind of scary. It really is. So I'd have to say, first off, the biggest pro of this weapon would be its damage output. You are very, very easily able to hit 500s, 600s with this thing. In comparison to most other Reaper class weapons, that is very high. It is, in fact, the most damaging Reaper class weapon. I believe I might have mentioned that already, but moving on from there, a few other pros. You have the typical Reaper class pro of the shield piercing, and you actually have an added benefit with this weapon because it does have a dark base damage and has dark damage associated with it. You do have the added pro of chip damage, so you'll deal extra chip damage through a shield in addition to your shield piercing, and that's a very good thing. As I said, the combos with this weapon are also very, very, very good. You're able to do a simple R1, R2 when you're two-handing it. I would have been able to do it right there if I didn't bounce off the rock. And if you use the stone ring with this thing, you will be able to do that combo on pretty much everyone, and that's a good thing. Another one that I like the two-handed, or not the two-handed, but rather the one-handed R2s. I find those to be very, very useful. Even if the first one is just to bait someone in, you can use it for a parry bait, or to bait them into range to hit with the second. Either way, I feel like it works very well, and it's not something you want to mess with. Another thing definitely worth mentioning is the counter strength of, not the counter strength of the weapon, the critical damage that the weapon does, the critical strength, I guess you would call it. I guess that's what I was going to call it, at least. The amount of damage this weapon does on a critical attack, it's very high. Very high. I mean, 1500 damage right then earlier in the last fight on a parry. Can't really complain about that, especially considering this is after the nerf to ripostes and criticals in general. So, again, something you really wouldn't want to mess with, and something you would not necessarily expect from a Reaper class weapon. That being said, all Reaper class weapons do have pretty high damage on their critical attacks, so it's not necessarily unique, but again, because this weapon has the highest damage of any Reaper class weapon, it has the highest critical damage. I keep doing that today. Don't know what's wrong with me. Anyway, other than that, I'd have to say that the biggest con of this weapon would be something shared with all Reaper class weapons: the tracking. The tracking on this weapon is bad. It's just bad. The only attack with this weapon that actually has good tracking is the two-handed R2, and that's not something you can rely on because even though it does scare most people away from it when you start that wind up in the spin, it's very easy to parry if the person does not back off. If they stand their ground and parry, chances are they will get the parry, because similar to Ricard's rapier, it actually hits multiple times per R2. So, that being said, it's actually very easy to parry, and that is another big con of the weapon. Last two cons I can think of: you cannot infuse this weapon, and you cannot buff this weapon. That being said, if you were able to, it would kind of be even more ridiculous than it already is. So, honestly, I don't think that's exactly a bad thing. So, anyway, that pretty much sums up the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, found it helpful in one way or another. Please like, subscribe, and all of that good stuff, and I will see you guys next time.